children have noticed the pumpkins, candy and costumes in the store. They have heard their friends talk about this yearly ritual. As Muslim parents, we should never forget this guidance from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which tells us basically to guide our children to that which is best. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, this hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, each of you is a shepherd, and each one of you is responsible for those under your care. A man is a shepherd, and he is responsible for those under his care. A woman is a shepherd in her husband's household, and she is responsible for those under her care. What is Halloween? It is a holiday celebrated on the night of October 31st each year. On this night, children dress up in different costumes and they go door to door asking for candies. And this tradition of children going door to door in their neighborhood asking for candies is known as trick-or-treating. Trick or treat, trick-or-treating. There are other activities also which take part in this custom, such as bonfires, costume parties, visiting haunted houses, playing pranks on one another, watching horror movies, and other Halloween-related festivals. And some of them are regional. So within some states, for example, they have some Halloween traditions which are not practiced in other parts of the nation. Pumpkins are carved out for Halloween with faces, and homes are generally decorated with ghostly images. What I want to talk about is 7 tips for Muslim parents to deal with Halloween. And I would request that you pay some close attention. Because if you have young kids, if you don't have kids, or even if you have older kids, there is something in there for you. First, and even if your kids don't celebrate Halloween, you should still listen attentively. The first is, find out exactly what is Halloween. Get some basic facts. Too often parents, they find themselves in the dark about the background of holidays which surround them, like Halloween. They just don't know, and they don't take the time to know. Once you find out why Halloween is celebrated, you will probably think twice about getting your children involved. In fact, any parent trying to raise his or her child as a Muslim who wants to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will object to participation in Halloween. If you discuss it with your kids using correct information, and they sense that you know what you are talking about, and I'll talk in a fair amount of detail about even how to talk to your children, how to approach this subject. If they sense that mom and dad know what they are talking about, they have some basic facts, it is very likely they might even agree with you of their own accord. And they might understand more easily that it is a ritual that does not please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The more you know about a subject, the more secure you will be, the greater amount of confidence you will feel talking to your own children. This is not a trivial matter. Because remember, your child, not you, your child wants to know, why does Baba or Mama want me to be different from my peers? That's what's happening in their mind. That's what they are looking for. So if you show them that you respect them and their intellect, and kids are not dumb. A 7, 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, you can't say, oh, what do they know? All they need to know is for me to tell them haram. That's it. Don't do it. And then we have other extreme of parents who's like, I want to be well integrated and I want to make sure my kids have all the fun that the society has to offer. And that's the other extreme. Alright? These are both not advisable, to put it gently. So if you show them that you respect them and their intellect, they will respond to you more positively. You will find greater cooperation from your children and greater agreement from your own children. Very briefly, we can almost spend the entire khutbah talking about the history of Halloween, but instead what I will do is just give a few basic, very simple facts, and actually I will provide a link from the History Channel where the details of Halloween are mentioned in more detail. When I send out, inshallah, the email will go out, inshallah, today. First time Halloween was celebrated was more than 2,000 years ago by the people known as the Celts or the Celtics. It's not the game, it's not, the people who play. These were the people who lived in what is today Ireland, northern France, and parts of the UK. The Celtic year, back then, 2,000 years ago, their new year, it began on November 1st with a festival known as Samhain. Some 40 years after Isa alayhi salam, this region got conquered by the Romans, the Roman Empire. And the rituals of the Roman Empire at that time is not Christian. Okay, they are pagan. They worship the sun god and they worship their emperor and everything else. So when this happened, they had two different gods. And the paganism of the Roman Empire got absorbed by the practices of the Celts. And many of the rituals actually which we have today go back, some goes to the Celts, some of them go to the Roman Empire. And then Christianity came along. And when the Roman Catholic Church in particular, some newer things got mixed up, and they wanted to replace this. That's the reason why the Catholic Church today, as well as the Pope, they are not in favor of Halloween. Not that it should matter to us, right? What matters to us is what Allah and His Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say, but this is FYI, okay? They replaced Halloween, which was October 31st, by different events on November 1, All Saints Day, and November 2. And then there is the legend of Jack. He didn't exist. It's a legend. And the legend of Jack is that he used to play pranks with the shaitan. This is just a story, right? And we have our stories too, like Kundes and other stuff. It's very similar. And it's just stories. They existed, people adopted them, they became cultural practices. And we have tons of them. And I mentioned some of them in the khutbah on Muharram, some of the legends which we have. They have their legends too. So Jack, he was playing tricks. When he died, he used to be a drunkard, couldn't get to paradise, and he couldn't get into hellfire. So he kind of lost his way. And when he lost his way, he would take a lantern and go around. This legend was picked up, and then what is said is that people, they basically carved pumpkins and put lights in there to help Jack find his way back wherever he ended up. I don't think the legend tells us where he actually ended up, because it's a legend. It actually didn't happen. All of these things combine to put together many of the things which people do and practice on Halloween. It comes from these roots. Every single one of them can go back to it. For those who say, okay, these are legends, this is history, what does that have to do with me? Halloween, and as a conscientious human being, I would say, not even as a Muslim, as a conscientious human being, the commercialism which is attached and associated with Halloween should be of concern. It is the second most commercialized occasion after Christmas. Second. 38 billion on average is spent on Halloween every year. $38 billion. On average, in 2005, about $50 on average was spent by a person, by an American. $50. $18 just on buying candies. And obviously this is about 10 years ago, the numbers that I have. So maybe for the commercialism of Halloween is a strong enough reason for some people to reconsider it. I'll mention something. For example, let's say that in office, the staff, they set up Halloween. And I know this happens in many offices. In others, they don't know. They don't, so for some office spaces, that does not happen. I know that, right? But that's not the reality of every office. In other offices, that does happen. You can make a potential, you can talk to the staff members and say, why don't we just collect this money and have a charity? Just throw it as an idea. It's not, pumpkins are not going to waste and the decorations, this is money, it's coming from somewhere in someone's pocket. why don't we give this money to a charity? United Way or any charity, really, any charity. It's an idea. It's just an idea. It might not hurt. So the first thing is educate yourself a little bit. This is the first step for parents. Educate yourself a little bit about the history and the commercialization of this holiday, of this occasion, of this celebration. Second, as parents, as husbands and wives, have a united front. Both you and your husband or spouse, husband or wife, must discuss and agree. So what I'm saying over here is that you have a husband should also talk to your wife about the family's position on Halloween. Discuss each other's concerns and approaches with each other. So before this discussion even goes to the family table and you approach the children, you as a husband and wife should agree, should come to an agreement among yourselves. And then you call a family meeting. You basically, tell your children and, you agree with your wife and your schedules when you're going to actually sit down and have a chat with your children. And this brings me to the third point, which is when, and the fourth point, how. When should you talk to your children about Halloween? It's not today, and it's definitely not tomorrow. You should talk about this subject as a family with your wife or with your husband to your children a few weeks before the event is celebrated. This will give your children some time to think, maybe come back with questions, and they will get used to the idea of not having to go trick-or-treating just because their friends are. And this is made easier by the fact that Halloween sales of candy and costumes are already underway. Like a week, 10 days ago, Walmart, it was all full of it. Kroger, it's all full of it. It just didn't happen today in the last few days. They start selling that stuff a few weeks ahead of time. And there are movies which are being advertised, for Halloween night, that these are the gory movies which will be shown, or these are the movies which are coming up on theater. So it's out in the air. That's when you need to talk. And let's say you did not talk. Make sure you keep it in mind, mark your calendar for 2016, that's what you're going to do. Talk to your wife this year, put it in your calendar, that this is, because it's October 31st. So say October 1st, or in the first week is when I'm going to sit down with my wife and talk to my children. Plan it for next year, so you don't forget. It's that simple. Fourth, how should I talk to my children about it? Now, over here, before I talk about the how, some people, they've never done it. And I've seen some parents, they boast, alhamdulillah, my children, they don't celebrate Halloween. They are grown, they are married, they are teenagers. But it doesn't mean that they never ask the question to themselves, how can we not do it? It is not a bad idea, even if the children don't do it, that you sit down and have a discussion with them, even if they don't do it. Okay? That's something which I want to emphasize. So they understand, and the idea is reinforced to them as to why they are not doing it. That's a very important thing, even if they are not doing it. And don't think that, my mahal of my house is so pious, it's so righteous. My kids are just blind, they don't see anything, they don't hear anything. No, they are not. They are not. Don't make these assumptions. These assumptions are not correct. The first thing is as to how to have this discussion with your child is show compassion. What does this mean? What this means is that you don't go to your child and talk in the outright, it's haram, and it's haram. So that's not how you approach the subject. As if you read a fatwa online in Arabic, and then you're translating this to your child. You don't approach this subject with a child, a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old in this manner. You introduce the topic by asking them questions. Is your school planning to do something on Halloween? Are your teachers planning some things on Halloween? Do you know what your friends will be doing on Halloween? That's how you start the topic. That's how you start the discussion with your child. What's up? What's happening on Halloween? I know you may not be celebrating, let's say if they are not. But what is your school doing? What are your teachers doing? What are your friends doing? And ask them, how do you feel about it? And most children, if they are honest, and if they have not had this discussion with their parents or with an adult, and they have had no exposure to this, they will say it's fun. It is absolute fun. You get to dress up and you go get free candy. Okay, what's wrong with that, right? In the mind of a child, what's wrong with that? So make sure you first listen to your child. Do not cut them off while they are expressing their thoughts. Let them speak. Let them know you understand and you care as a parent how they feel, where they are coming from. Validate their feelings to show that you actually understand and try to understand. You can say things like, I know it's hard to watch your friends having fun on Halloween, and it might make you sad because you feel left out. This is a very simple way of validating how they feel, because they actually feel like that. Second thing, talk with rationality. So the first is compassion, the second is reason. Explain to them that we as Muslims have our own celebrations. Explain calmly that every group or culture or nation or civilization, they have their own celebrations. And we as Muslims have our own. And let them understand. Let this idea sink into them. 3, present what you know about Halloween as a family, husband and wife together. Present this, when you talk as a husband and wife unit, as a parental unit with your child. 4th, explain, as I said, every one of our occasions, it actually has a meaning. This is something at the level of a child. Both the Eids, they actually take you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They increase your good deeds. A young child, I don't see a whole lot here, but they can understand this. It's very simple language. It's very simple idea. Okay? Halloween, on the other hand, is associated with the shaitan. And hopefully your child should know something about the shaitan and know that what is the meaning of A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Okay? It has to do with death. It has to do with fear. It has to do with being scared and scaring others. Okay? That's also a part of it. And it has to do with not dressing properly, not covering your aura, not covering your body parts properly. Many of those outfits that are out there. Okay? The costumes in which people dress up. So emphasize the positive meaning of Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, and also talk about that these other events, they don't really have much meaning. And that should be pretty clear. Let them read that link from History Channel. Let them read a little bit by themselves so they believe it. 5th, very important, emphasize to your child, it's not wrong to be different. There's nothing wrong with being different. It's not something necessarily negative. And emphasize that this does not mean that they cannot have non-Muslim friends, or they cannot make friends in school. It doesn't mean that. Or that they will have to be excluded from all their school activities or having fun with their friends. That's not what you are trying to do. All of this will go in the conversation which you are having with your child. And these are things which you should be mentioning to your child and making them understand. Bidnillah. Tell them that as Muslims, we accept the best aspects of what is good. And at the same time, we safeguard ourselves from things that contradict Islamic principles. This is a very important point to discuss with your child. 5th, meet with your child's teacher or school to discuss this. If there is a party taking place, and that's typically what happens, is let's say that they'll have a party from 11 to 12, all right? And the schools, they send you notices, so you are aware of them, read them, so you know what's happening in your child's school. Go pick your child up at 11 o'clock, so they don't participate in that Halloween party in school. And by law, by the law of the land, the schools are supposed to, they are required to accommodate people who don't agree with these festivals. They are required by law. So you're not doing anything over here for which you'll be like, oh, these Muslims, oh, we will stand out. No, by law, that's the law. And there are, as I told you, there are Christians who do not approve of participation in these things. You're not alone. That's what I'm trying to tell. 6, in your home, turn off the lights in the front part of your home. This indicates that you're not trick-or-treating. There are other things you can do also. You can discuss with your friends and others. What some people do is they feel that they cannot do this, so what they do is like they will put a book, a dawah book or a pamphlet along with the candy if they feel that, we really can't say no to these kids. You can turn the lights off and listen or recite to Surah Al-Baqarah to keep the jinn away, because apparently, there's a lot of this jinny stuff happening on this night. And if you have to, if you feel compelled that you must, and you don't want to appear stingy and whatnot, and you've been doing this every year, and people will be asking, neighbors will be saying, hey, how come you guys are not celebrating Halloween this year? What's wrong? Put something related to dawah or an explanation. Print out the article from the History Channel and say, we changed our mind and we are not celebrating it. Think of something smart and innovative to communicate other than just giving candy because you feel the pressure to do so. Seventh is about a halal alternative. I want to explain it, but again, not in too much detail. It's a double-edged sword. Okay. Now, some people feel, and they feel correctly, that if we are giving an alternative, then what we are doing basically, we are saying, okay, don't go do it outside, do it in the masjid, or do it under parental supervision, right? If we are giving an alternative, that's how some people feel. They say, okay, so we are validating the holiday anyways, all right? But you have to understand that if your children or your family don't celebrate it, then you don't need a halal alternative, right? There is no burning need for you to give an alternative. But there are other families which need that, and I'll mention two which do, okay? Because everyone might not be like you or me. People are different, and you need to understand the needs of the entire community, not just your own children, your own family, or your friends, or whoever. People who have been celebrating it, Muslim families who have been celebrating it, if we are going to encourage them not to do so, then their children are in a greater need of an alternative. That's one. And the second are new Muslim families. Most of us may not know them. I know many of them. There are sisters, for example, single sisters who have children. They're kind of, not very practicing. And for them, it is important that they are able to give an alternative for that child. Because most definitely, if that alternative is not there, that child will go and they will do everything. They will not just go do trick-or-treating. They will do everything else as well. Alhamdulillah, in our case, we do have a beautiful event which is planned for tomorrow, which is our community dinner. So you can come and you can pray Maghrib and then socialize with your friends and your families. So alhamdulillah that we do have this event which is planned for tomorrow. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward the families who are providing the food and all the organizers and everybody else who is involved in this event. Every person has the choice to obey or to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is done by staying in the limits of halal and haram. And this is crucial because in the life of every child, a point will come, an occasion will come in which they cannot participate. Whether it's drinking alcohol, whatever it might be, whatever it is, they have to be trained in saying and when to say and how to say no. They have to be. Okay? They need to learn what pleases Allah and what angers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they have to learn that there is this concept. They have to learn that there is this concept without overdoing it. Okay, without like taking it to the extremes. They have to appreciate and they have to be taught that there is this concept of halal and haram, of lawful and prohibited from our dini perspective, of ma'ruf and munkar. This is there and they have to learn and appreciate that. Remember these occasions for the time of Eid. For a number of Muslim youth who have grown up in North America, I'm talking overall, in general, Eid is sometimes just another day. And some parents, and I'm seeing this painful trend even more, that many youngsters, people who are having jobs, they do not even take the day of Eid off. They do not take the day of Eid off. It's like, yeah, well, I'll take maybe half a day off, I'll take 2 hours off, I'll come pray Eid, 9, 9:30, 10 o'clock, I'm back at my job. In other cases, when parents take the day off, and I know actually many kids who go to school on Eid, they don't even take the day off. So in case when parents do take the day off, The ritual is the same, and that is the reason why they are not taking the day off. It's not fun. That's the reason. Or it's not fun enough. As I said, this is in a lot of communities. The ritual is you get up, put on new clothes, you drive to the place to pray, you pray, and then you hug Eid Mubarak, you go home, you have food, and maybe if you have families or friends, you will get some money. You'll get some, gift as Eid. That's it. But when children see the Christmas lights, gifts wrapped up, and they hear of the Halloween fun and treats, their eyes light up. It's something exciting for them. But Eid should be the great time of fun for all Muslims, young and old. Eid should be filled with excitement, games, candy, and fun. And there is nothing stopping us from making it that way. Make the most out of Eid and go all out. We can organize huge parties with gifts, games, and fun, and make each Eid the most special day of the entire year. If it already is, alhamdulillah. If it isn't, that's what we should aspire for.